Yeah, mesdames et messieurs, it's a pleasure for me being here with you today. Cher Michel and AQUATIS, thank you very much for this kind invitation. My presentation today is about our contribution to the conservation zoo, the IUCN One Plan approach implementation at the aquarium of the Cologne Zoo in Germany. And you already see here the aquarium, which got 50 years last year, and we already have a selection of critically endangered species we keep there, and we also run projects in their habitats inside. And this is what the talk is about. Yeah, you see on the top the aquarium section in the blue area to the right, the terrarium section with our Philippine crocodiles. I come to them back later. In the middle and below, the insectarium section with the lower animals, with the invertebrates. And on the right side, a panel right in the beginning, which points to from the animal show to the conservation center. This is our main focus. Yeah, already dealing with the invertebrates, we keep meanwhile more than 10 threatened species, 3 of them critically endangered, and some are shown in here, from snails over spiders to millipedes, where we contribute and assist conservation breeding programs. In the aquarium section, we have a focus on threatened fish from Madagascar. For example, on the upper left, the Mangarahara cichlid, which already was believed being extinct, then was rediscovered, only 18 individuals. Toronto Zoo started to breed them, gave offspring to us, and we could breed more than 500 individuals and send to other zoos. And that's quite important, the build-up of conservation breeding networks, because if you are only one zoo and something bad happens, catastrophe, a fire, whatever, so then you have lost. And if you are a team, a network, then you can be strong. And this is what we already point towards in our topical panels. So the title already points to conservation topics. You always see the IUCN red list button in red and another button in green, which does not tell it's beautiful, it's dangerous. No, it's our role in the conservation breeding projects for these species. That formerly was a 20,000 liter tank for the fishes of Lake Tanganyika. It was nice, but without any conservation related programs, so we have changed that, and here now threatened freshwater fish species from Madagascar are kept, and that already was the content of a video clip the Madagascar Fauna and Flora Group did about the development of this tank, and this video is available on Facebook. Here you see another section of our Madagascar section, and these are all threatened fish species, and many of them are also very colorful, so you cannot say conservation is not so interesting for the public. And again, everywhere the red list button pointing towards the threat status. But we do not only work ex situ in zoos, we also work outside in the field with our partners. And that's a genetic study dealing with the freshwater fishes of Madagascar. These are the results of field surveys, and based on this phylogeny, we also could discover new species which are currently described. And which is more important, we test the animals which are in zoos to find out to which species and lineage they belong, so they then can serve for restocking events, for rewilding, once this should become important and required. Of course, we also point to the problems of these days. Caspar already has impressively shown that. waste campaign in the oceans, in the freshwater, microplastic. Of course, modern zoos must deal with this. Who else? And of course, we also go the way of sustainability. Our team, since years already, does not get any species from the wild. We only get bred individuals for our zoo. And in case we get individuals from the wild, then on behalf of our authorities and taking over of confiscated animals to provide them a new home. And this is the nursery in our marine section. You see pipefishes from the Philippines, the Zulu pipefish, and we once published a breeding report about that species, and after that, a zoo in Canada requested surplus from us. And this is also sustainability, because they paid much more money than those fishes would have costed in Canada, but they did not want to get white-caught individuals, so they got the reared ones from us. So that's the importance of the international conservation breeding networks. Yeah, and the terrarium section, that's my field of expertise. I'm herpetologist. My expertise is amphibians and reptiles, and here we have the highest number of threatened taxa. Those ones are all critically endangered, which means facing extinction. This is the statistics in the aquarium. In total, we keep more than 100 species which are threatened. And this is alone the statistics for the terrarium section. Without aquarium and insectarium, we keep around 100 species in here, and more than half of them are currently successfully bred. 1/4 of them are from confiscation, so we are important partners of the authorities. 1/3 of them, or more than 1/3 of them, are listed on the ICN red list, and half of them are on the appendices of CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. And for example, this Burmese star tortoise once came to us based on a confiscation. I come back to that later. And again, everywhere you find the red list button of the ICN pointing to the threat. This is a critically endangered species. The one plan approach, what is this? For those of you who have not heard about that, that's a very cool measure in recent times, doing the best optimal conservation for a species or for an area, and this can nicely be explained based on the Cologne Green Toad project. This is a project, this time not in the tropics, this is in the Cologne area, where the green toad is in decline. A toad in front of the Cologne Zoo. And here the NGOs have asked us, hey, Cologne Zoo, can't you help in saving the species in front of our houses, in front of the zoo? And we said, yes, of course. And we got support by our municipal drainage system and companies, and they funded us this station. And one of my keepers, Christian Niggemann, he's an artist. He made this nice comic of the green toad, also to make that attractive to children. And in the beginning of the season, we get the tadpoles and the larvae and the eggs, and then we rear them based off the expertise of my team. And at the end of the season, we bring them back to nature. And this is shown in this station. And this is the one plan approach, combining in situ, what happens in the field, with ex situ in the zoos. And in the field, together with our partners from the bio station in Cologne, in the last years, more than 60 new habitats have been created. Stepstone habitats to make the diminished populations getting in a better exchange, that they have a chance for survival. And this is the in situ aspect, creating new habitats. The ex situ aspect is rearing animals which would not have a chance in the nature. And then we do the release action. Alone in the year 2021, 1,500 toads, which is a convincing number, which really helps the diminished natural populations. And the one plan approach is not only in situ and ex situ, it's also on top different expertises, which is very important with the three musketeers, everyone together, yeah? Then we are strong, and this is quite cool. So here we did a genetic study. Is there a genetic bottleneck? Yeah, do we have to consider that? And also a study of the disease. So the students in our region are happy they can write their thesis about these topics, and we can not only say we're doing conservation work, we do conservation work, and the best one because we studied that before, where we have to help and to assist. Yeah, and here the 1,500 larvae which were restocked in 2021 were reared, and here a picture of them, and in the end we have also received an award for that from the UN Decade Biological Diversity, and this is exactly also what the TV these days wants to show. Those times of the longest, the most dangerous, venomous are gone. They now want to have rescue stories. Sorry, Kaspar, you impressively showed that in your presentation. We need hope, yeah? So what can we do to change this desperate situation? And this is also what the TV wants to show, and what we want, of course, also to support. That was in the German breakfast TV. Coming to the terrarium section, some examples from there. That's the Vietnamese crocodile nude, a small black nude, but a special story, because that story shows that we really can change the situation. We have also created poster, also in English and in Vietnamese language, that now is placed in schools and authorities in Vietnam to inform the people there. Awareness is very important. And this is the nude, just recently described, and that's a microendemic species only occurring on 4 sites in the northeast of Vietnam. And those microendemic species are those one who will disappear first, because their distribution is very limited. In zoos we have to focus on them because they are gone, and here we can serve as a modern ark. My team also is working in the field. These are PhD students who wrote their thesis about the ecology and the population status, but also about the threats of these nudes, because we must know what is going on in the field, that we can act properly and in time. And based on these publications, this species with the complete members of the genus have been included in the ICN Red List, and also on the appendices of CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. And that is what most people don't know. Yeah, many people think zoos are prisons. No, we are a modern ark. We provide our hotel rooms for threatened taxa, which have no chance in nature because we are not fast enough. And here, the one plan approach helps to buy time before the situation outside is improved. And most people don't know that we are responsible that species, threatened species, also get an official threat status for better protection. And here again, if we see the nude occurring in Vietnam, okay, but if we see this map, this shows it, it's really dramatic. Those tiny red dots are the whole occurrences known for this nude. You can imagine if the forest is cleared there, these are only 4 sites, that's very quickly done. In weeks, months, yeah, it can happen very quickly. And sometimes we are, as I said, not fast enough, so here zoos can help. And this is what we did in here, because we could not estimate the situation inside. We said we must do an ex situ program to save the species, that we have it. And our partners in Vietnam, the Melin Station, sent us 4 larvae only. And 2 got mature, and they were luckily male and female, and they give birth to more than 350 new newts. So that means the population in zoos now is maybe larger than the population in the wild. Of course, this was only possible because of the expertise of my team, but this is a success story. This is my team with section keeper Anna Rauers in the middle, and these newts have been already sent to other zoos, but also back to Vietnam, back to the country of origin, the repatriation, and I was on the other end in the airport of Hanoi and was happy to receive them. And shortly after, they gave they did the reproduction, and already a new generation of our offspring appeared in Vietnam. So quite a nice story, and also the ambassador of the German embassy welcomed them in the Millen station. And this is only one species, and this species already now has a reduced IUCN Red List status because they were so successfully bred and sent back to Vietnam that here the status could be downgraded. I come back to that later. That is reverse the rat. Zoos help to reverse the rat. And this is another species, and we could repeat this for many more species. How did we do this? Our house is more than 50 years old. We are not so new, so beautiful, and so spacious like the AQUATIS in here. So my respect to you. But we used any storage room available in our ground. And this was a previous storage room, now is a modern breeding room. This is one of a dozen. And meanwhile, in the complete house, we have more than 1,000 terraria and aquaria, which we use for threatened species. So that's the ARC system. And this is another species. And to be more strong, to be more quick, we also support the program Citizen Conservation, because there's only a limited number of zoos, but you can also participate as private persons, as citizens. If you want to go for conservation, we give you our threatened taxa, as we did in the case of those threatened crocodile newts. And we just last weekend we had the meeting in Berlin, and a number of zoo specialists, of conservationists, of scientists, but also private persons who run this program to provide an ARC to as many as threatened taxa, because if we have a conservation breeding network, we at least have a species. If a species is gone, it's forever. So we must be quick and in time. And this is the situation out in the world. These are the global hotspots. Those red areas are those areas where the diversity of endemic species which only occur in there is highest. That means if the world would be burning, we would have to go to these sites to protect or to save as many of our diversity on the planet as possible. And one of these sites is Vietnam. And this is why the Cologne Zoo is committing in there. And the idea is, if every zoo goes for another species, another region, we can be many and really can do a major contribution towards conservation. But if you land in Vietnam, that's the picture you get when you look out of the window. And that was already 10 years ago. That's Ho Chi Minh City, the former Saigon. You see houses, but no forest. That's the problem. We are not aware of that when we read the newspapers, watch TV, but before 3 years, I went regularly to Vietnam up to 3 times a year. You see that, you go to the forest, and next year, it's gone. It's so dramatic. It's really important that we commit now. This is why there is the title, The Time is Now. We don't have to waste any time. And this is why I was very happy that the WWF has asked me to write a foreword for the last Mekong report. And I used that chance to point to the new generation. We need new conservationists, researchers, scientists, because we are not enough. The new generation must help that we can save as much as possible. And of course, I also used the chance to highlight it, one plan approach, also to the WF readers. And this nicely shows in former times that was only in situ conservation. That's the most important, but people got aware, at least the decision maker, and not only zoo biologists, mostly conservationists, that they cannot win the fight if they only work outside. They need zoos, if zoos are going for the good thing, and most of them are doing that, as also does AQUATIS here in Lausanne. And to show you where we are, these are my students in Hanoi, and maybe you see the paper with a phylogeny of only one gecko genus in Vietnam, Cetodactylus, bentod geckos. When I started in Vietnam 1997, 3 species have been known. I also discovered one. I was very proud, the 4th species. Meanwhile, it's about 50. And this is the phylogeny, and everything which is marked in blue and red and yellow, it's a new species. This is alone our working group. The time is lacking. We cannot do all this description in time. And then we have a name, we can only start with the conservation. It's really a race against time. And you even can do conservation-based research in zoos, in these animal prisons, as many people say. This is my PhD student, Marion Schneider. Now she's done and PhD in an interview with a German journalist, famous in the German TV. And she studied the malign sun bear and the sun bear and the thermal niche. And she found out that the sun bear need the primary forest because in the secondary forest it's too warm. So they need the coverage of the primary forest in studying the thermal behavior. So even in zoos you can do research which supports in situ in the wild. This is the one plan approach, all together from all sides to save species from extinction. And again, those people who say zoos are, bullshit, and they should go, hey, they have not seen this study. This is a richness analysis. Research really can help us to answer questions. We have the amphibian crisis. Amphibians are the most threatened vertebrate taxa, not the birds, not the mammals, it's amphibians. And we cannot save them all. And if you look at the threatened amphibians, which are kept and bred in zoos, only in Europe and the US, they are marked here. Of course, most zoos in the US and in Europe keep species from here. These are the deep red areas. But deep red areas are also in the tropics of South America, of Africa, and Southeast Asia. And the problem of these tropical countries is they don't have zoos, or if they have zoos, they are not that developed. Then our zoos are, because we have more money, so that's very easy to explain. But if we would close our zoos, those modern arcs would be not longer existing. So that means these amphibian projects for conservation breeding projects are important, and we can help our friends in the tropics. So we are important, and we don't belong to be closed, we belong to be supported because we are important in terms of conservation. Another study, just recently done by one of my students, and thanks to the Corona crisis, we developed a new idea. The students could not come to the office because of the Corona crisis, so we thought about an idea so that they can do their thesis from home. And we said, okay, we do threat analysis. In general, it's easy, checking the fauna of a region, how many species are occurring somewhere, how many are threatened, and how many are microendemic. And then we publish this, and this helps our friends in the tropics to improve conservation. It's easy if you go here. I don't have a pointer, but I can do that in here. This is Vietnam, and this is the Central Highland. This region has 26 microendemic amphibian species occurring only there. And most of my friends in Vietnam did not know that. But if we publish this, they have a chance to go out to do research, to do conservation, and maybe bring some officially to stations, breed them so that they don't can get lost. And we also study the coverage of protected areas. Where are protected areas? And where are species, their distribution is not covered by protected areas, like that one. It's easy. We publish this and provide it to our country, partner countries, and in the best case they can use it, and my colleagues already have promised and they've done it. This now is in the hands of the ministry, and they just develop a new red data book, and this data will be used for the new red data book of amphibians in Vietnam. So that means we can increase of the rate of conservation activities also from here. And that was recently published in Nature Conservation. You can download that from the homepage of the journal. It's free access. And we also did a media release because it's important that more are doing such analysis. So have a chance to act against the extinctions. And we did this also for the fishes of Madagascar and also for the amphibians and reptiles of Madagascar. And we also checked how many of them are already in zoos. These are the threatened fishes from Madagascar in zoos. And we can easily see which one are lacking. Hey, then we must try to go for that. And which one of them are kept in too high numbers and they take the place of other threatened taxa. So we have a chance to improve our zoo network. And this also was recently presented as a media release by Species 360, which reached 36,000 members in the zoos and in the conservation world to spread the word and to show that these are options to improve the situation. And zoos can only create protected areas. This is an area in Laos where my team rediscovered the Siamese crocodile. This crocodile species was believed to be extinct there. We could rediscover it, and that was the basis for the creation of a new nature reserve. So if a zoo would not have set foot in the area, there would not exist a protected area. So zoos really can be 100% conservation if they go for the right thing. That's the main message. And we even helped the colleagues in the zoos in Vietnam and Laos to test their crocodiles, because there are many hybrids with other species, to test which ones of them are pure and can be used for conservation breeding. That's here, the zoo in Saigon. When I started my career as a biologist, I did research myself in Vietnam, but these times are over. Now it's more important that we are more, and many students are now working in our group, and we have high rates of species discoveries, because you can only protect what you know. If a species gets extinct before you could describe it, you have lost the race. But if you describe it and you can thereafter do protective measures, you have won, or at least tried your best. These are some of the discoveries in our group. Amphibians mostly, snakes, lizard, and also this turtle species. And we also already have discovered a new mammal species. And as I told, my students also doing population analysis. The Katba tiger gecko was a species I could discover my own on the island on the upper right, Katba, in the northeast of Vietnam, in the famous Gulf of Tonkin, where there is the touristic site Halong Bay. And my student Hai could study the threats, and we could bring them, another species group, to the ICN red list and also on the appendices of CITES. And we could also develop breeding programs in the Cologne Zoo. And very nicely, you see there is the symbol of the UNESCO. They now also plan that this area becomes UNESCO heritage site, and I was asked to write an evaluation. So again, it's really cool what you can do from the zoo. You can describe species, you can protect them, you can create reserves, and even increase the conservation status, because then not only the tiger geckos are protected, but also other species occurring in there. And we also do very modern research like species distribution models, checking the potential distribution of a species where new reserves could be created. So there are many tools available for improved conservation. And this is a nice story just recently published in California. This is the group of Professor Dr. Lee Grisma, a gecko researcher from the US, who wants also to have tiger geckos. Yeah? He wants to extend the conservation breeding network to the US so that we have international support. And he sent one of his best students, Sarah Goimer, to us to check the situation, how we do that, and now she brings this knowledge to the US. This is also conservation breeding network. Together we are strong. That's the one plan approach. And we also do this in Vietnam. The Cologne Zoo is in Cologne, the AQUATIS is in Lausanne, but we can also support stations in the country of origin, because there we have short ways for restocking of individuals. We have not to book flights, not to care for veterinary tests, because we are already in the country of origin. But the problem is, if we have wars, natural catastrophes, and disease outbreaks in the country of origin, it's a problem. And then zoos a little bit more further away, like the AQUATIS or other zoos here in Europe or US, this is then advantageous. So it's a stable network of insurance colonies. And of course we talk also about what we are doing. This is the Melin station in Vietnam, where we run an awareness program for children that they better understand how to protect nature. Maybe their parents have drunk the rice wine with the dead snakes inside, but we want to reach the goal that the young generation does not longer do that. And this is the Vietnamese crocodile lizard with the comic Sheeny, done by my keeper Christian, who explains that to the children. And this is the Vietnamese crocodile lizard. We discovered it there in 2004. Before, that species was only known from China. And this is one of the forests I mentioned before. It was beautiful forest in the year before, and the year thereafter it looked like that. Of course, no more crocodile lizards occurring in there. And my PhD student Mona found out that the population in Vietnam is only 150 to 200 individuals. So it's really, really a problem and a race against time. And thereafter we also found out it's not only the Vietnamese population, which was a new discovery, also the one in China consists of 3 lineages. And this is also important for the zoo world, because we also must check what we keep in zoos, not to combine conservation units and produce hybrids. So modern zoo work can be 100% conservation, but we have many challenges in front of us, doing research, applying new methods, and this is the distribution of the crocodile lizard. Before only known from China, then we discovered it in Vietnam, and now we know there are 3 conservation units in China. Yeah, we built a 7-meter facility only for these lizards in the Cologne Zoo for conservation breeding. And this is Mona in the field, and that's the first offspring in Cologne Zoo. And on the lower left, that's the first F2, which is offspring of offspring at Cologne Zoo. And meanwhile, if you say, yeah, zoos, what can zoos do with conservation breeding? In this case, we could so far breed around 20% of the population size estimated to occur in the wild. It's not a small number, it's a big number. And if we restock them, rewild them, we can really do a good thing. But the ark must also go to the shore, to land later. So this is again the one plane approach. Our work always must be combined with work in the tropics or in Switzerland, where nature is. Yeah, and this is Mona. She did the PhD about the crocodile lizard. And finally, most of my students who are in positions now, only few are in zoos, the most of them are in conservation authorities. Yeah, so the zoo is creating a new generation of conservationists. Yeah, so it's interesting, and we are very happy about that. And we did very interesting research We did eDNA, we checked the DNA in water, is the lizard occurring in this water or not? And we even put them backpacks to study the climate change. What is the thermal niche and what is climate change doing with these lizards? We can do really very cool research which supports conservation measures, and we can even support the authorities with forensic analysis. So based on stable isotopes, we could find out whether a crocodile lizard, which you put me here in front of the table, and with this analysis I can say whether this is a wild caught and illegal or a captive bred, because they have totally different food spectrums, and this is a help towards the authorities, and this was published together with the WWF and Traffic International and supported by our ministry. Yeah, and this was on the Conference of the Parties in Panama for a few weeks ago, where we could bring the Chinese water dragon on the appendices of CITES based on our research data in the field, because we could prove the population are in decline. Previously, you found it in the animal in the pet trade regularly, a common pet, but we checked the situation in the forest and the population were in decline, so dramatic development, so we could act in time. And now the species is officially protected. And we also tell this to our visitors. This is right next to the toilet, so everyone has to cross this panel when he is in the Cologne Zoo Aquarium, partner of the conservation authorities. Meanwhile, we keep more than 25 species from confiscations. And again, the one plan approach. Maybe you know some blogger or influencer who say, no, conservation must happen outside in the field. Zoos cannot do anything. Of course, if we lose the natural habitats, we lose everything. Then that's it. Of course, we must protect the habitats. But zoos can help in cases where conservation measures in the habitat are not possible. And that's the Mitchell's monitor lizard. We received them 1 year ago from the authorities as a confiscation for animals, and my team could breed them. Now we have 19 young Mitchell monitor lizards, and a new clutch is in the incubator. So we have many. And the problem is they are from Australia, and the habitats are nicely looking. They are cool. Everything is fine. Why is this species critically endangered? Because of humans, because they have released the cane toad nearly 100 years ago in Australia. It's a venomous, poisonous toad, and the Mitchell's monitor lizard, they eat toads. And this has caused local declines of up to 97%. You have a school class with 100 pupils, only 3 are left over. This is quite bad situation. And this means here we first have to get dealt with the cane toad problem, and we don't know when this is done, so we have no other chance at time to keep them ex situ in zoos, and this is what we do. This is the rarest turtle species in Vietnam. We go for that. The Cologne Zoo Conservation Bureau is supporting that, and that was recently also published in the journal Oryx of Flora Fauna International. We also test confiscated animals to find out whether they are pure or not. This is the Burmese star tortoise. They were confiscated in 2011. They were in these boxes. We received them. We helped to identify them, not in these boxes, in these bags. And based on these confiscated ones, we could cocker them up, and we could finally breed them. And now that was the basis for an official European Association of Zoos and Aquaria stud book. And this is offspring at the Cologne Zoo. So that means we can turn things from the bad side to the good side. And not only in zoos here in Europe, but also in the wild. That's the only species of a turtle I could discover myself in my life. The spotted softshell, I found it first in 1997, 26 years ago. But only recently, based on molecular analysis, we could find it's a new species. And then the question arose, is this still existing? Because the Vietnamese and the Chinese colleagues, they like turtles for food. And the question is, did they already capture them all? Before it was a species, the Chinese softshell, believed to be widespread in Korea, in Japan, in China, in Vietnam. And now we found, hey, in Vietnam it's a separate conservation unit, a separate species. And by the help of the European Union of Aquarium Curators, by funds of them, we could send our team to the markets in Vietnam, and we tried to buy individuals which looked a bit like the new species, and then we checked them genetically, and some of them were the pure, newly described species. We developed a breeding program nearby Hanoi, and now we have the first offspring. So it does not mean whether the zoo is in here or in the country of origin. The main thing is we do something and we do something together, and they are now available for extending the conservation breeding network, but also sending individuals back to nature. Genetics is important because if you don't know the genetic situation, you can do really severe mistakes. This is the four-eyed turtle, and this is our geneticist in the team, Professor Dr. Min Duc Le from Hanoi, half time of the year in New York. And he did a genetic analysis, and you see there are many lineages. And it's important that we check the confiscated individuals with data from the wild so that we have a calibration, and then we can do proper release. We found out it's a lineage in here, in there, and in the north. So that means if we do not consider that, here, so I could also use this one, huh? Yeah, that would have been too easy, I guess. Okay, for the last few slides, yeah. So we are nearly approaching the end. No, if we would release individuals from the south and the north, we would do genetic pollution. We would cause hybridization, and the one we would release, they also would die. Because in the south it's warm, it's tropical, and in the north it's subtropical. The winter are hard, they would die. So that means it would look nice in the media, hey, we have released 100 turtles, but in the end they would die. So the genetic information is important. Also our zoo animals need genetic screening. This is a tegu, a lizard from South America, and if you check zoo databases, every zoo in the world keeps the same species. A species described by Carl from Linné, 1758, so more than 250 years ago, but since then 6 new species have been described. And we did genetic analysis and found out, oops, there are more than one species. So if we do not consider this, we mix individuals in zoos which do not belong together. So also in our zoos we can do one prime approach conservation, like here confiscation of monitor lizards, yellow-headed, dark-headed. We did a phylogeny and knew thereafter which species, which individuals belong to which species and where to release, and a conservation breeding program could be built up based on this confiscated monitor lizards in the Zagreb Zoo. And also jeweled geckos could be saved from confiscations and sent back, in this case to New Zealand, and we received a letter of thanks of the environmental minister. We have many chances to cooperate, and we should do that. And the last case, and then it's done, it's a Philippine crocodile. We do the conservation breeding program for IASA at the Cologne Zoo. That's the stud book. We started with 15 individuals, now we have more than 50. We could double the number of participating zoos, and we support every year the Mavuvaya Foundation in the north of the Philippines to save this critically endangered species from extinction. We did the first breeding in Europe in Cologne Zoo in 2013. We do ethological research because nothing is known from the wild. Students in Cologne can do that. And we also did the first natural breeding, which is very important. If you leave the young together with the mother, they are perfectly socialized and suitable for restocking to the wild. And when I approached the colleagues in the Philippines based on a conference already on the airport, they told me, hey Thomas, we need your crocodiles from Europe because in the Philippines we have only mixes between Philippine crocodile and saltwater crocodiles, and we already have done a genetic screening before and published the data. So our animals were available. Then the colleagues from the Philippines visited us, and they decided for the well-socialized offspring of the natural breeding. And then we sent them back to the Philippines, here in boxes with red and green hearts with their names, and we still cooperate. And that's a cool story, a welcome poster in the Philippines. And you can believe they would be very, very sad if someone would close our zoo, because we were crucial for the restocking of their diminished natural populations. And I guess that should come into the head of the people outside, that zoos are everything else but no prisons. We are modern conservation centers if we do it right. And this is the habitat where they will be released. So that's cool, yeah? Growing up in a zoo, and after 1.5 years, getting back to the Philippines to support the family in the country of origin. And these are the crocodiles now. They are doing well in the Philippines, and they are shortly before release. And this is, again, a comic which Christian has developed to also make that visible to the children, a crocodile flying back from Cologne to the Philippines. Yeah, also available as a banknote in our zoo shop. And this is a documentation our partners in the Philippines have done, and they wanted to have us also as part of this documentation, so we are really friends, yeah? So maybe the one or the other politician can learn from that. We can do it if we do it together, yeah? If we respect each other and if we take things in our hands and do something. And this is why the Philippine crocodile now also is listed on the internet as a success story in the reverse, the red. And I have prepared one of these video clips for you showing the natural breeding, which happened a second time last year. And if we have 3 minutes left, do we have? Then I can show this movie to you. Yeah, thank you very much. And these are the 3 small ladies which will be sent to the Philippines soon. We just received last week the CITES papers from the Philippines, and I already have asked the animal travel agency to book us a flight, and I hope next week we have a date and then they can be sent back. And this movie was so successful, the Zoo Species of the Year campaign 2021, the crocodile, reached the enormous sum of 170,000 euro, of which 1/3 will be sent to the Philippines for building a station for the Philippine crocodile. So this is all good work which can be done from zoos. And again, our partners in the countries of origin would be very, very sad if we would not be there and try to help. And I'm very happy that also now the media has understood that, like in the City News, a magazine available for tourists in Cologne, they publish not an article poisonous and colorful, no, the Cologne Zoo Aquarium, a modern ark, and also we can be an ark in some of the biggest newspapers of Cologne, and zoo can be 100% conservation if we do it right. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup Thomas pour cette présentation. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui aimerait bien poser une question à Thomas directement? Oui.
I do have a question actually. Thank you very much. This was a very interesting talk. So you talk a lot about the successful stories, like to what extent in some situations, such as in Australia with the cane toad, you kind of give up to try to reintroduce the species you've kind of bred in the zoo? I don't know if I make myself clear. Thanks.
Yeah, in the case of the cane toad, we cannot do a restocking because it's still there. We can only try to buy time. If we have animals in human hands, we can keep them, we can learn to breed them, we can have an insurance population, and one day the problem is fixed, we can bring them back. But if we don't do anything, maybe we lose a species. 97% decline is hard. And maybe that species is really at the brink of extinction. So in these cases, zoos are in fact the number 1 for conservation. And the people outside should start to understand that. Of course, zoos cannot do anything, but they can be very important partners. And for some species, for some countries, for some situations, even the only one. That's the one-pen approach. We all must come together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In the case of Tilototriton vietnamensis, you started from a population of 2 larvae or 2 adults who bred. Do you see any issue with regard to inbreeding in the future, since you are propagating this population to the zoos starting from the same lineage?
Yeah. This is, for example, a chance to highlight the work in Lausanne, and you can be proud and happy to have Michel and Sabine, because they are not only building nice show facilities, they are also experts. They are zoo biologists, and they do demographic studies, genetic analysis, to study exactly that what you have mentioned, because that's the work of a zoo biologist, to deal with low population sizes, to keep them genetically diverse as long as possible. And of course, you are right, in a confiscation, when we start with one monitor lizard, with a male, and that's not a parthenogenetic species that cannot reproduce itself, in the case of a female, you could think you lose the race. No, we even work with one individual. We just wait. Maybe there is another confiscation, we can do genetic analysis, and we already had that case. We found another one, and that was a female. So that means we go further and further and try to get as much as information and data as possible. And in the case of the Vietnamese crocodile newt, we heard from a university in Ghent by Professor Dr. Frank Passmans that he also had a group, and we already exchanged individuals that, and we are doing that already. For the next generation, we have not related individuals. So this is always the job of zoo biologists to have that in mind, and to keep the diversity as high as possible. A good question, but we always have that in mind, but we usually start with that what is available and then try to improve and improve and improve.
Autre question? Oui.
Thank you for your talk. How did you decide to work with Gonurossaurus juliensis and not already threatened species like Gonurossaurus louis?
We work also with species on the brink of extinction like Cnimaspis psychedelica, the psychedelic rock gecko. We built a facility in the south of Vietnam, but we saw they are breeding not enough. And then together with the German Federal Agency for Nature Conservation, we decided also to develop a program in Europe, because we all understood we must work as quick as possible and together. And the Louis is one of 5 tiger gecko species we breed at the Cologne Zoo. It's Louis, it's Lichtenfelderi, it's Juliensis, it's Catbaensis, and it's Araneus. So all 5 species from Vietnam are in our holdings, and they also will be sent to the La Sierra University in California. But the Juliensis is the most important one because it's a microendemic species, critically endangered, and really only occurring in one single reserve. Louis is also occurring on both sides of the border in Vietnam and in China. Louis is a famous species, maybe not everyone knows that. That was the year 0 for scientists who describe new species, never ever to provide GPS data, because Louis, shortly after its description from the Chinese type locality, the species could not be longer found at the type locality. So maybe traders went there to collect everything, and that was the year 0. We never ever published GPS data or accurate data. Yeah. And, sorry, in Berlin we decided that also the tiger geckos will be included in the citizen conservation program, which already is running for fishes, Malagasy fishes, for example, for amphibians like the crocodile newts. But now the program reptiles will be established, and the tiger geckos will be part of that. And maybe even in the future, jeweled geckos. My section keeper Anna is in the reptile group. I'm the speaker for the amphibian group. She wants to develop that further.
Merci beaucoup encore une fois.